goal of the Jamstack is to make the site like more accessible and approachable to any like tech level of developers. And I think they probably like we a lot of times you see this with the Jamstack where it's the GitHub workflow that helps. So you can use like a headless CMS, so content creators can put things into the headless CMS. And then
Yeah.
if you're more tech savvy, you get all of that through Git and through the Git integration and are pushing and pulling things there.
Right.
So I think this does that. Uh, and like SWAs are also thinking about more accessible for people to grab your site information. So you want it more accessible for people using your site and for making your site. And I mean, if the web is going and it's like Microsoft, they're a big player, you know? So if a big player is going towards that line, just like we'll see with Google and Angular getting more into Jamstack stuff, it's like the big players are getting on the Jamstack train.
Yeah.
Woot woot.
Whoa, whoa. Speaking of which, let's talk about Hamstack. So let's talk. Yeah, let's talk about this app that you've got
So
experimenting with.
if you look at your second tab, that's my even catchier name of Jamgular. So the Hamstack
Yes.
is the repo for this Jamgular site. And this is my like work in progress to build out an enterprise level site for like showing you different things that the Jamstack can do. And so like this front page may just look boring. I actually like went to Adobe's, I think it's like Adobe's homepage or something, and I was like, I'll just make it look like this. Um, but so like so yeah, so here we have a blog created. So now you can use like markdown files inside of Angular, which is really nice. So if you click on any of those blogs, you can see I just actually have like the full
Oh, nice.
um, yeah. And so so with like the front page is all this is all pre-rendered. So everything on here is pre-rendered. And it's pulling in. So like Scully makes it so you can create a blog through one command and then do markdown files, and then Scully renders the markdown inside of your once you build out your Angular project. There's a whole section on it in their docs section.
Yeah, yeah. So Scully is the Jamstack implementation for Angular, and it's pretty new.
Their static, so it's the first static site generator for specifically for Angular. Angular didn't have one before Scully. Uh, and so I always like I talk about Angular and the Jamstack in general because we're kind of like there was even seemingly work with Svelte before there was work with Angular
Oh wow.
incorporation to the Jamstack. Yeah, because obviously like we know about Next and Nuxt for Vue, and we know about Gatsby and for React,
Yeah.
and so there's just like, and then, you know, there's so many other static site generators that are great. So it was funny because the hero devs built out Scully, and we realized just like not only has Angular been not involved in the Jamstack, but the Angular community has wanted so much that is the thesis of the Jamstack, basically, like SEO capabilities, like faster rendering and pre-rendered content. Like we've wanted that for so long in the Angular community. We didn't really know per
Yeah.
se that the Jamstack existed to be doing all of this, and like so now we know it exists. We know we want to be part of it, and now we're like surely seeing our ecosystem grow, starting with Scully, which is very exciting.
Yeah, when I was getting into the Jamstack and Gatsby was my gateway drug into the Jamstack. I was telling every Angular person I could find that there needed to be some Angular equivalent because
Yeah.
I knew Gatsby was going to eat the ecosystem alive, and there needed to be an Angular version of it. So
I think almost everybody in the Angular community has been in a group of two or more people discussing how there needed to be a static site. Will you
Yeah.
build it? I'm kind of busy. Will you build it? You should build it. Someone should build this.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's cool about this that you don't see for like Gatsby, you have to learn how to write Gatsby. And what's
Mhm.
nice about Scully is that you don't need to learn Scully. It's just Angular. Just like Angular
Yeah.
is just Angular, Scully's just Angular.
Yeah, that was one thing that was hard for me as I was learning Gatsby was understanding what was Gatsby and what was React. You know, like what things were the special Gatsby bits and what things were just just part of React because I was coming at it from an Angular background. So
Totally.
it's yeah, it's definitely really interesting.
It's funny. So like along the lines of like we can jump back definitely. So I'm also building out. It's private at the moment, so I couldn't share it. But a local group. We have a Cincinnati, like the Asian community. We're building out a website, and we're talking through what they wanted in the website. It made me realize it could be static because they wanted to have a list of all of the Asian and Asian owned restaurants in the city.
Mm.
And that list would have an about page about the family that owns the place, their menu on there that the people could come in and like type, whatever about their menu. Have a map on there. I have just like a different way to get all this information about these restaurants. And it's like, oh yeah, that could definitely easily be a JAMstack application. So we're
Yeah.
building that out, but we have somebody who is currently in high school who she's amazing. She like wants to learn all this, or in, yeah, junior in high school. And but she's learning uh, React, Gatsby, and Git all at once.
Yeah.
And it's like, but like we keep telling her like they won't teach you this in school. So like we're to ask us any questions that you want. Like we're so happy to walk you through this. But it's, I mean, it's got to be daunting for sure. But and
Yeah.
Strappy, we're using the Strappy headless CMS for the site for contributors. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
What was it? Strap like
Strappy,
STRAPI like
correct.
that?
I think it's IO.
Oh, I've never.
Yeah,
So this is a CMS similar. Is it a CMS similar to like
yeah,
Contentful or um,
yeah.
Sanity, basically?
Yep, exactly. So it's like it's an open source headless CMS. It's really like so it's really easy to set up. Basically, like you can and one thing that's really nice is you can have it be self-hosted, so you don't have to share your information anywhere. So that's really nice. And like we're doing it with GraphQL right now, and it's like a really they have like a quick start setup. It starts you out with SQLite. Um,
Oh.
but you with the quick start, but you can choose uh, Mongo, SQL, or Postgres when you set up.
Oh.
And yeah, my coworker Jason Langsdorff is actually coming out with a blog. This is total like self promotion, but I can't tell you how much of the resources I use from my own team
Yeah, it
on the
sounds like
Netlify
it.
blog.
I mean,
I constantly. They're just, I mean, because it's like all the questions I have. So like Jason's doing a whole Strappy integration that is nice because it's like all the data on your own servers that he's doing it. You don't have to do that. You can host Strappy on Heroku and then have your whatever database hosted wherever you want it. Like we're doing ours
cool.
on DigitalOcean, and they have a really good DigitalOcean uh, mashup too. That's really
Oh
nice.
yeah, James said in the chat that Chris Savaleja, Chris on Code, has been doing a lot with Strappy in his DigitalOcean webinars. So that
Nice.
makes sense. Yeah.
Chris on Code. Oh man, Chris on Code. He's another person that met through
Yeah,
ngconf magic.
The NGConf train. Yeah, we became really good friends through NGConf. Um, we're good pals.
ngconf is like the best place to make friends because it's like you don't have to be like, hey, where do you want to go eat? Or like, hey, what are you doing now? Like you're all in the same
Yeah, you're
hotel
already
together.
there.
There's like fun stuff to do all the time together. And like just the hallway check at ngconf is my favorite.
Yeah, yeah. I really missed having that this year. I mean, they
So
did an
weird.
amazing job pulling off a virtual event, but I definitely missed the in person vibe. Oh,
We
I didn't.
got you,
James was at NGConf in 2017 and met
what?
Chris there. I didn't realize that. We totally were in the same spot at the same time and didn't know. Little did we
It
know
was
that.
there's like a Kevin Bacon thing, but it's like NGCom
Yeah,
and Chris.
yeah, that's crazy.
I went, so like I think one of the things that was really interesting, I think there's going to be a lot more online conferences, and oh shoot, I wish I could remember. So the way that Jamstack was run, I wish I could hop in, hop on. I think it's hop on. It's either hop in or hop on, but it's a I mean, it's only one letter difference. So I got you pretty close. But for anybody else who's going to run a virtual work or conference, they had this thing called networking that you could jump into a room and
Oh,
it would pair you up randomly with somebody and you talk to them, but you have I think it was 5 minute time. So
huh.
you know how sometimes in person you meet people and you're really excited to talk to them, but you have to go somewhere, and so you awkwardly have to be like, so I'm sorry to
Yeah.
stop you in the middle of your sentence or whatever. So this is nice because it's like this timer that's like tells you like 10 seconds, 9 seconds. So you're like, hey, yeah, great meeting. Like you both know at the same
So it's
time
sort
when
of
you're
like
supposed to
speed
part.
dating, for
Totally.
networking.
It's fantastic. I met so many great people. And I was like, like a lot of like good conferences, there were people from all over the world. And what was like JamStack Conf was free. So like you just had so many people just from everywhere. I just wish conferences could be more like that. But anyway.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, so we've talked about CMS stuff. We've talked about static sites. What else can we do with the Jamstack that is not a static? That's not just like a regular, like a markdown static site kind of thing.
So if you go back to Jangular, um,
Angular. Okay.
so two Netlify things that I like a lot in that top right corner are the contact us form.
Okay.
So this is a very like you can do all kinds of things that you would do with a form, but if you go look in the code
Yeah. Let's go look in the code.
and you go to source
For
contact
contact. Here we go. Contact.
contact and then just go to the HTML. So it's just a
Okay.
regular form, and then on line
Oh, here, line 8.
8.
Data
Mm-hmm.
netlify equals true.
Yeah, so that, and then there's also a type hidden because we're rendering it out with Angular, and then we have to make sure that it still
Here.
shows up. Yeah, when we go through and show it all up. But just those two lines. So I could have added any kind of input type to that form. Um, and now since it has that Netlify thing, it goes to the Netlify hosting platform. And you know what I didn't think about? I should have just sent you a screenshot. But you go and it shows you all of, oh, is this, sorry, if you go back to my repo and TZ Manix, not Hamstack, and then go to workshop, there's a forms section. And I think I actually have so add contact form is a third
Here we go.
folder. And I think I might have, if you scroll down, an actual screenshot of the, yeah, just scroll past the amazing gifts. So you get all of that success and whatnot. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, the dashboard here.
Yeah, so it's nice.
Submissions.
Yeah, so then it all just goes through and through Netlify. So it's all static, or it's all like all that form is pre-rendered, but using a serverless function. So it uses a Netlify function, which Netlify functions are Lambda functions wrapped up in an easy package. So you don't have to go through all of the AWS like setup and
Oh, so
yeah.
you don't have to. So with the Netlify forms, you don't have to set up a function at all. You just add the or I don't have it up anymore. But you just
Oh,
add
it's in that. It's in this article though.
you
It's
just
the Netlify data true or something. Yeah, there it
yeah,
is.
data
Data
netlify
Netlify.
true. And then did you also what was the reason that you had the hidden input? Was that because of Angular or was it
It's Angular being uh so being scanned there. Wait, is it there? There under
oh
adding the
here we go.
Netlify magic. Input
Yeah,
type
right here.
hidden.
I'm gonna link to this here. Let's see.
So with, I believe it's with Vue and with Angular, this is a way to, because it's a like Angular, it comes through as a dynamic thing.
Hmm.
And I thought that it would have been fine. So this is a little funny to me because Netlify will usually see that data Netlify true and add that input into the form. And I thought it would have been fine with how it was pre-rendered, but only when I had this in did it work well. So
Hmm.
I just, until I can delve into that more, I suggest that be added.
Okay.
But you just add those two lines, and then basically Netlify looks at your form, sees that it exists there, and knows to run this Netlify function that will, every time the form gets submitted, it grabs the information from the form and puts it into your form dashboard.
Hmm.
And it's nice, it's like from that dashboard you can like send it to a CSV, or I think there are a few other things, but yeah,
Yeah.
you can download it as a CSV. But then it gives you all these submissions, and it also has different. Like you can add a honeypot field or a CAPTCHA challenge to it.
Oh, I
But
see.
then, oh yeah, there it is. Oh yeah.
Yeah, right
But it
then.
also already on uses Kismet from the get without you doing anything.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
this is one thing. I don't know what, especially for like I'm curious of your mind on this because I think security in general with Jamstack, a big goal is to delegate as much as you can so that you don't have to do everything. Like even though we're all very smart, capable people that can do all these things, like having the ability to delegate things like this, and hugely to me is like security. Like security, like people who are trying to get at you are going to like their whole job is to like attack you.
Right. Right.
So, like having a team whose whole job is to figure out how to not get attacked for you.
Right.
I feel like it's a huge thing with the Jamstack, this kind of delegation of tasks where so you can keep iterating and making features and stuff.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I
Yeah, that's
think
really
that
interesting.
so that's like so here, you know, having and of course you are definitely capable of learning how to make the functions that you need to get this information from your forms. But
Hmm.
having things like serverless functions or Netlify functions to do the work for you and then grab all the information you need for you. I keep trying to scroll your screen, which is ridiculous. But yeah, so another aspect of Jamstack can do this is form handling, um, and also like the security on top of the form handling, because just not getting spammed in your forms is an annoying task in itself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, James says he normally leans to just doing serverless functions because the free tier has is a lot higher for functions, I guess. I haven't actually looked at that.
wait, what
Let's
is
see.
it?
Uh I guess something about the free tier for the forms. Let's see. Where is forms?
Good question.
No. Forms. Oops.
Oh, it's an add-on.
I see.
There
So
it
you
is. So
get
you get
100 per month, 100 submissions per month in the free plan.
and
And then you get
10 megabytes of uploads. Oh, but you do get functions integrated, but you don't get delivery SLA. So James, what do you said because of the functions?
He says you only get so many form submissions with free tier. If you use serverless functions yourself and skip forms, you get like 1,000 times more calls.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't worried about lots of submissions for my form.
I see, I see. So let me see. Okay, well that's interesting.
Totes.
Huh. Okay. Oh, he says he just uses a serverless function and handles everything himself because he's cheap. I gotcha. I gotcha. Well, it's good to know. I mean, I feel like for a site that was producing revenue or something, it would probably be kind of a no-brainer to just
Yeah.
outsource it, especially for like the spam. I mean, I think that's one of
Yeah.
the biggest thing about the JAMstack. I think that's why it's starting to it's finally starting to take off more as like a serious business consideration and not just like a platform for people to make blogs like I made like I made my site a Gatsby site with Netlify but like this ability to outsource different things and scale it up really quickly. I can see why is now like it's now crossing over into like enterprise and other
Yeah,
things like that.
totally. But also like what James is saying, because the fact that he knows that he can make a serverless function to do so much. So it's like you I think that's the biggest Lego block of Jamstack are serverless functions and
Yeah.
APIs. And I think that's the thing that is like moving so many more things into the Jamstack can do that column.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, it's uh, also kind of goes in lines with build plugins, which we can talk about
Oh
in
yeah.
a little bit. But just to wrap up the Jamgulars, the last thing that I have on that Jamgular site is the login,
Oh yeah.
and that's again just a Netlify setup, and it's seriously one line of code in the index HTML. But again, because it's using serverless functions, so it's like you can do the Netlify identity with if you go in the code. I think it's in the actually in the Jamstack code because I haven't made a section in the workshop for it yet.
Yeah. Oh no,
Um,
you've got it in the workshop. I'm
no,
gonna
that's
go in and
empty.
submit. Oh well, now since it's empty, I'll just submit a PR for Auth0 instead of
There you
Netlify
go.
identity, and we'll be
That
good to
would be
go.
amazing. I would love that actually. I'm adding an issue already. Sam said he's going to make uh so yeah, Hamstack and
Let's
then
see,
go to I think it's in the source index.html.
probably in navigation, maybe.
Mm-mm.
No.
Wait, is it did I have it in navigation or yeah, and then go to the HTML. Maybe it is in there. It's been 3 months.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah, there it is.
Boop.
That's
Netlify
it.
identity button. Interesting. Interesting. So okay, very cool.
So that's fun. Um, there's also I think there's also a line in source index.html though too, if I
Okay,
remember
let's see.
correctly.
Uh,
Yeah, right there.
yeah, there's an
Uh,
identity widget script.
yeah.
Yeah, which you'd do something similar for Auth0. You'd have to include
I would
the script.
let's do that sometime together. Next time I do this workshop, can I well I do you like how I'm asking you on live?
No, yeah,
Well, it's
we
recorded.
totally should. Because I was actually reaching out to Frosty about which is Aaron Frost who runs Hero Devs, which built Scully. I want to have him on and talk about auth in Scully, so
Totally.
we could all like work together on that because I don't think anybody's done anything with Auth0 and Scully. I mean
Uh-uh.
the auth the Auth0 story on Jamstack is like pretty straightforward because when we start to get to like Jamstack with serverless functions, we're kind of just talking about single page applications with serverless functions, really, right? I mean,
Yes.
maybe with
Yeah.
some extra like secret sauce of server-side rendering or static rendering or
It's
pre-rendering or
all just acronyms and
yeah,
buzzwords,
it's all just but like essentially it's just like a fancier version of the web development we've already been doing. It's just that
Yeah.
we've just moved a lot of the back end into serverless functions. So from the auth0 standpoint, you know, you're really kind of doing the same thing you normally would for a single page application. You're doing the same kind of auth flow. Um, so it'd be cool with Scully. There's like for things like Gatsby and Next, there's a couple of little extra steps you need to pay attention to depending on whether you need authentication on the like if you need to render protected data in the build, that requires like a different kind of set of steps. And so it'd be
Oh, that's
cool to
interesting though. I'd love to learn about that
yeah yeah
next week on Off
next
Zero
week huh
Live.
yeah what we're planning on doing so like one the article that we reference the most is our one of our principal architects named Sandrino wrote this guide for authentication in Next. And what we have talked about internally doing is that we need to basically take this article and extrapolate it into other like broader server side rendering or Jamstack kind of frameworks because he basically walks through these like three different approaches depending on where in the spectrum of the build time and runtime you need the authenticated data.
Nice.
And in here he's using um, Vercel Zeit, uh, but yeah, yeah. So
That's
this is the kind of
awesome.
I would one of the things I'd like to do is work on kind of extrapolating this to Scully. We're also doing a project
Yeah.
with Redwood where we're kind of doing the same thing with Redwood JS,
Nice.
trying to kind of like figure that out. So,
You should show everybody the Redwood page because I think it's new enough that
oh
it's
yeah,
not known enough. New enough, it's not known enough.
Redwood J. You can actually see in our we've actually got
What's 20% of the
oh,
day
that's
that's
like the
gone by?
day, yeah, the day that's gone by. Yeah, so in Redwood's Git issues, we've actually jumped in and we're like working with them on some stuff to get
Nice.
this going. Let's go to Redwood's main site. Hey Mahmood. Do.
And Tom Preston Werner gave a talk at Jamstack Conf about Redwood too, with his Batmobile in the background.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, Redwood is doing some cool stuff. I think James is doing a stream with them pretty soon. I don't
I
remember.
think it's an interesting concept in general of talking about bringing the full stack to the Jamstack because uh, you it's another one of those things that already exists everywhere, and it's again just like bundling it all together.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a big thing about the Jamstack in general. Like, there have been people out there who are like, oh, Jamstack's just a marketing thing, it's just a ploy. And then you learn about the technologies that are encompassed in that Jamstack architecture. And it's just like, okay, yeah, it's probably not marketing because these are all things that we've been using in
Yeah.
engineering. It's just,
Yeah. It seems like Jamstack is sort of like um mostly referring to either a static site or a fancily rendered site with serverless functions. Is that do you think that's fair to say?
like how it's perceived or what it is in
Like what
general.
it is in general, is it I mean, is it fair to say that
Yeah, because I
Jamstack's
mean,
either going to be just straight up like static statically rendered or it's going to be uh like maybe some partially statically rendered with serverless functions, but it's mostly
totally.
is it mostly excluding the traditional web app of like regular
Servers.
server and either on the same server or two different servers or whatever.
That's the biggest thing is like getting rid of the complications that come with setting up servers. And I think that really what it like with the Jamstack, you don't have to do everything at once. Like you don't have to have every single part pre-rendered, every single part of your dynamic parts of your site be, coming from a serverless function or an API. Like you don't have to do all the things at once in order to like pass as a Jamstack. It's more along the lines of, you know, doing the things like pre-rendering and serving from a CDN to give you that Jamstack performance and reliability for your users.
Mm.
So yeah, and that's why it will more than likely either when you see a Jamstack site, most of the time, it will either be like a static site that's all pre-rendered, or a site that's like using things like serverless functions to give you all the dynamic data. But you won't see, so like if we talk about um, the things that the Jamstack can't do, you're never going to see a stock ticker
Right.
that is a Jamstack site. Like that type of real time application where it's got to get that data at every millisecond because the Jamstack wants to rebuild all that new data for you.
Ah.
So
Okay.
this
Yeah.
site, this is another one of my this is my coworker again, another coworker, Phil Hawksworth, but I use his most of his resources to show you what not to do.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Let's let's talk about Phil and his ability to tell you what not to do on the Jamstack. Yeah, I think we've done. Oh, actually, before we get to the what you can't do, which I do want to get to, should we talk about build plugins? Because I don't know a whole lot about build plugins.
Totally. So
Um.
yeah, so build plugins are so when the biggest thing that you do in the Jamstack is like take advantage of the things of like the build time.
Mm-hmm.
So we basically at Netlify just released a way to drill into different events of the build time in order to run functions inside there. So like for all the fancy like, oh, Netlify build plugin, it's basically just an index JavaScript file that has a function that you say, um, at this particular event, run this code to do certain things. And you can do file manipulation, you can go through the files and uh, let me start by actually showing you. If you can either see it down here. If you scroll down more, you can see the different events. Do I have
Like
that in
on
the
init,
readme?
on pre-build.
Hmm. Actually, if you actually go into the code and look at the index.js file,
Okay.
there it is. So here's all of the. So there's on pre-build, on build, on post-build, on success, uh,
I see.
and on end and on error. So there are different utils that you can use too. So we have a run util, so you can run commands inside of the project at certain points. So like Cypress has like error checking build plugin. If I'm trying to think if you can not if you can see this list not logged into Netlify. But they now do one-click installs.
Hmm.
So like we have like no more 404, which seems like a quite simple thing of um, you make sure that your redirects are in place so you never get a 404. So
Oh, nice.
the and it's just like you just go to the dashboard and you click a button and it says install this plugin and you're like, yeah, install this one into this project and you're done, which is nice.
Cool.
So like for using build plugins, it's like nice to have that easy.
I was trying to find the, or maybe on docs or something, just to see a little bit more
Oh
on
yeah, that's perfect.
build
Docs and
plugins.
then configure builds.
Ah, build plugins. Here we go.
Tudor. I think they might even have a screenshot if you go down of the UI installation. There it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so Phil made that Add Instagram one. It's
Oh,
nice though because you just
hey,
hook
look,
up.
you made one, Brand
I
Guardian.
made one. So that one is like you can add a. So I wanted to show that there are ways that you can add more than just like a singular input of some sort. So you can add a JSON file that has like. So a lot of times I'll try to write Netlify and I'll write like Nertlify or like spell it wrong, but nobody's gonna like my spell catcher always catches Netlify, so I wouldn't even notice. So like for brand words that like you take all the vowels out of it, or like auth zero, you're never
Oh
gonna like
yeah,
every
you never
spell
want
check.
auth O. You want auth
Yeah.
0. Yeah,
So like you say like in your JSON file you say auth zero, and then here are all the ways it can be misspelled.
yeah.
So then you can actually look at the file for Brand Guardian in my GitHub repo.
Let's see.
Um, there it is,
Netlify
right at the bottom.
plugin. There we go.
So the way it works right now is getting inputs, and you can't set inputs on the UI, but you can set it through your Netlify TOML instead. Um,
Newtlify, Netlifries. I like it. Get hid.
uh, but like you can even fix capitalization errors too that might happen.
Yeah,
Obviously, like the downfall is you have to like premeditate what could be spelled wrong.
yeah.
But if you look up at the in the code, you can see how the plugin is built out.
Is it
So
just index.js or is it the YAML or?
is you can look at the index.js first, but it pulls up modify HTML as
Oh,
well.
I see.
So in here, this is basically we're just looking at, so one of the, you can get constants when you use build plugins, and that will get you like the publish directory, that what the user is pushing for their code, and some other stuff. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's all. It's all in that all events build plugin too. You can see that. But then we're able to like read the directory and look for all of the HTML files, and then apply that modified HTML to it, and use those brand words list that I grabbed from the user in the JSON file.
Yeah. Brand
So then
words right here. Yeah.
So then if you go into the modify.html, and my coworker, Jason, has a Learn with Jason that kind of walks through a build plugin like this one, where he uses like a tree, a tree, like a virtual tree file tree. And that's
Ah,
kind of what we're doing here. So like we're looking and we're visiting each node on that tree, each text node on the tree. And we're saying, okay, object.entries, take on these brand words. For each of those entries, look at the proper spelling and the misspelling array. If that entry matches anything on there, then change the misspelled word to the proper spelling in that node. So we're using node.value.replace for that.
this feels like an interview question. Like, what's the big O complexity of looping through each of these words and
I would
checking
bubble
for
sort.
the?
Wait, what? Yeah. Oh man, it's so I give my son a bath every night, and I always joke like whenever I add bubbles, I'm always like, "Let's bubble sort," and he kind of it's the stupidest. He's like one,
That's awesome.
so stupid. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, so that's like so this is kind of showcasing like you're just using everything that you're used to in JavaScript to be able to make a function that can be triggered at a different time of event in your build. So it's
Mm.
basically gives you a way to like a lot of stuff that you may automate in your build process that you used to have to like do by hand, like check for things like this. Or another one that Jason make is using Apple tools. It's a visual diff. So say you changed a bunch of code, nothing should change visually, just it should all still like be the same. It lets you see that ahead of time, and will you can cancel your build, um,
Oh wow.
fail your build, or so it's like these different. I think I have errors on here? I should. It might be on the other one, on the
Let's see.
index.js. Oh, it's a issue. Um, go into if you go into PRs, I made a pull request because I needed to add an error. So if I check to see if they have the brand where if you go to files change, yeah, or that one, whatever, you can see. So I have a
Ah,
utils.build.fail build. Um,
with like the tiniest frowny face emoji ever.
so in the utils, like there's a bunch of different utils you can use, and one is the error handling. So you can say like, I want to fail the build so that nothing goes out because obviously it didn't work. But you can also cancel the build so it doesn't throw an error like a failed build, or you could cancel the build plugin. So the build plugin just
Ah,
exits, doesn't change anything, but your build still happens, which is really nice. And
I see. I see.
not that I've ever broken anything in production ever.
No, nobody does. Util where? Let's see. Where?
Oh, if you go to the
Ah,
oh yeah, so
so
you
this
pass it in.
so so on post build, that's a hook that
An
Netlify is
event.
providing for you, and you're getting the constants, the inputs, and the utils. And in the utils is where you can get these methods for doing something with the build, basically.
Yeah.
I
If you
see.
go back to that all the events plugin, which I think is also a pinned repo. Um,
Yeah, this
oh,
one.
yeah, you're there still. Yeah.
Yeah,
So if you go to the README, I think I have all of the output.
yeah, I think you did. Let's see. Do do do.
So that's how it looks in your logs. That's how
Yeah,
errors look, which are nice because they really stand out. Um,
yeah.
it's nice, like at Netlify, I feel very like, oh, and you could just deploy it to, well, you probably don't want to log into your Netlify, but uh, I think I have, if you, oh, that's what it is. I have a whole article on this, and in that article, it has all the utils listed.
Mm.
If you, do I have a list? Oh, here. See where it says here in all caps, and it's a link.
Ah,
Um, yeah, if you scroll through there, there's a whole section on all the utils. Um, but we like, I feel very in our company, DX, which is my team, developer experience, works really closely with, both with marketing and engineering. But so for this, they brought us in to kind of help them look into the experience. Oh, on init
yeah.
is become on pre-build. And so it was nice because a lot of the feedback we had got incorporated into the project seamlessly, and that was super nice.
How did you get that feedback going into a DevRel nerd moment? What are you all doing? Because we always look to Netlify at Auth0 as a really good example of using DevRel to work closely with engineering, and I'm curious, like, how did you test this out with a group of developers, or are you just talking about the internal feedback that the DX team gave to some of the engineering teams?
No, we did all of those.
Oh, you did all of it. Okay.
Yeah, because we had beta for this out for a while.
Mm.
So we were able to get feedback. And the Jamstack community is it's the best community out there. So we had developers like David Darns of Ghost was building out a build plugin. We had a whole group of like really great developers. We did a panel talk. I think they're going to be available on YouTube at JAMstack about creating build plugins, and there's people in the community who made some. So we just like chatted with them and saw like what were the like in the beta version, like what were the hurdles you were going through, what did you find easy, how did the workflow go for you, why are you building a build plugin? So it was that, and then teamed with that. Um, Again, Netlify just like uh, cares so much about DX. Like that's why they have the whole DX team. And
Mm-hmm.
so with projects like this, we had a team lead on DX, which was c'est moi. And we basically all built build plugins because we're like everybody on the DX team is an engineer. So we all built a bunch of build plugins, and we all had feedback of like what was confusing about any documentation they had so far. And what was also nice is they had docs come in and work with build plugins like pretty early on in the process too. So our feedback, it was just a team meeting of all the heads of like front end, back end design, uh, DX, um, and research. And so we were all able to give updates on, any staggers, any hurdles, any smooth points to focus on.
Hmm.
And I think that's the thing. There are a lot of meetings that happens. I hate meetings so much. They make fun of me. They're like, okay, Tara, this meeting will be done. You can go back in the closet by yourself
Yeah.
again. But it's like I think it's also just a level of respect back and forth. Like we extremely respect the engineering docs and marketing team for all the work that they do to create and document, and release the products. And so we try on the DX team, we just make sure that we're being respectful of every team's time by working together amongst our team to make sure we have a clear, concise, easy to put into words or put into code problem to solve. And we submit issues and we uh, uh, submit PRs. We try to do as much as possible on each part of the product. So
Yeah.
yes, the answer is yes. We do all of
Yeah, that's
those.
awesome. Yeah, we're trying to we just released a beta of a new React SDK. Um and we are working with very closely, more closely than we have in the past. We're working with our DX team is the SDK team. That's what we call developer experience. Well, actually, it's multiple teams, but for this purpose, DX is referring to the SDK team. There's actually DX SDKs, but do I have
I
the
love how much we all love acronyms.
React Auth 0 beta? I don't know if I can get to it. It's probably here. Yeah, yeah. You can always count on the Auth0 community forum to
Pop
come up
up.
first. I don't know if you people are aware, but Discourse has insane SEO. It's like,
That's awesome.
yeah, it's like pretty redonkulous. The 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 stats for the Auth0 community forum as far as like traffic is nuts, and it's because of the way Discourse is optimized for SEO.
That's so
So,
cool.
but yeah, so we're working with the SDK team on this new Auth0 React SDK, um, and so trying to test out this thing of like DevRel plus the DX SDK team plus like the community forum and the technical content team, like all working together to try to get feedback on this new SDK and incorporate it in. So if anybody's watching and you're a React user, definitely give this a look. Basically what it is just a wrapper for like the hooks and context that you set up for auth. Um, but yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So let's talk about what the Jamstack cannot do. What the let's because we've before we move, I'll post some more resources, but we have a bunch of resources here
For the
on like
can
what
do's.
you can do. The can do's. This uh, serverless page for CSS tricks is really awesome, and then the
Yeah, that's a
dev.to.
gold mine.
Yeah, there's a ton. I had never seen this before.
If you show them, if
Um,
you go to services, click on services in that right menu, this is my favorite thing. So that whole list right there,
yeah,
it's
that's
like,
amazing.
yeah,
I noticed
I
that
think
we are right there on the services page. It's helpful that our company name starts with A. It makes it very easy to
you should
get.
have said zero off, but then that
I
wouldn't
know we
really
should.
make sense.
Yeah, yeah. So
We offer you zero off,
zero
but you
off.
come up first on every list.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, this is a really cool. So I'd never seen this until you showed me this.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Slick
tons
shared
of
it with
really
me when
cool
I first
stuff.
started at Netlify. Chris did a really great job putting this all together. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
Um, But yeah, there's
Cool.
definitely stuff on there that I've never noticed before. But yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing for me. Also, is to remember a lot of these services, like even though Angular is newer to the Jamstack community, especially because you're doing a lot of your pre-rendering with Scully, you can incorporate a lot of these services with your pre-rendered content via Scully. So
Yeah.
although we're kind of late to the game, there's still things that work well with Angular.
Yeah, I'm always telling people this is like if you're like a person who is trying to get into content stuff, like the Angular Jamstack Scully area is like a gold mine for building out if you're trying to write articles or make videos or do open source work. It's like a really good place to jump in because there's
Yeah,
if you just look at the the non-Angular ecosystem of this stuff is massive, and so you could
yeah,
basically write stuff on using Sanity with Angular, and
yeah.
you know, there's like a ton of
Yeah,
stuff you can do with it.
totally, a ton. And yeah, and let us know because we'll happily shout out from the rooftops about it too.
Yeah,
Also, just in general, I'm really curious. I one thing that really needs a lot of documentation help is Angular Universal has pre-render,
yeah,
um, and there's no documentation on it.
yeah, yeah. The Angular Universal generally needs some love on the like
Yeah,
documentation side. I knew that there are still
but
some people, a couple people inherited it and are still working on it. They just recently made some updates to Angular Universal. Um,
yeah, and with pre-render as well. But again, there's not much. There's a tweet about it, but I
yeah,
don't know if there's much documentation on it. Um, I want to like I'm trying to figure out write up some Netlify schematics for having the process of connecting to like just doing an ng add to connect to Netlify, so you have your CI/CD
mm,
path real easily for Angular. Once I'm done with that, I hope to jump in on that side and just see if I can help anywhere I can with getting some documentation for pre-render, because it's been there for so long,
yeah,
but it's not the easiest to use. So,
yeah,
and like on the flip side of that, now we have Scully, which is extremely easy to use. So
yeah,
it makes the inertia that much stronger when you have something really easy to use in comparison to not.
yeah, yeah.
But
So, mm, so we started to talk about this. The what isn't a good match for the Jamstack?
my favorite
When not to
section,
use
yeah,
the
my
best.
favorite.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say my favorite part of this README is that section down there that says, "Are you an
Oh
idiot?"
yeah.
Because he knows it's a dumb idea to try and make an application that is um, trying to update at every minute. But one thing I think that's interesting about this is like people, a big deterrent for people of using the Jamstack is it rebuilds every time there's new information.
Right.
So you have things like atomic builds, so that nothing goes live until all of them, like there's not just pieces that will change, it's everything.
Mm.
And you can see this in for screen wise, you could look at jamstack.io/best practices. But basically saying that like, did I get that right?
Let's
No,
see.
what is jamstack.io?
Oh, that's not the right. What is
Now
Oh,
I want to know.
it's a musical thing. That's right. There's like an amp,
Ah,
like a guitar amp or something called called Jamstack.
is Jamstack on jamstack.com then?
It must be. That's
I
so
feel like
funny.
we
Seems like it should be the other way around,
switched.
right?
Yeah, I think it's
That's
best dash
best
practices.
dash practices probably. Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't just
Here
have
we
you.
go.
Cool.
I
Yeah. So
see.
atomic deploys. This site's really good for just like referencing like talking community, like finding all your community organizations for Jamstack and stuff. But
Mm.
I like to point people to this when they're new to Jamstack because like when you talk about atomic deploys, um, that's making sure that things aren't inconsistent, but you're also saying that you're doing everything. You're not just bits and pieces rebuilding. You're rebuilding everything. But
Oh.
now we have things like build plugins that have like we have Next Cache and Gatsby Cache, and I think we maybe have one for 11D that is basically saying all of these resources haven't changed. Don't rebuild them.
Mm.
So, and it's just basically taking advantage of the cache to not rebuild those sites. But still, with the Jamstack, you're rebuilding every time you push new code. Like you can
Right.
also turn that off and not push every time there's new code, but um, anytime you want something updated, you're rebuilding. And so I think that's a big deterrent for people, and because they worry about that build time. But it's also like, how many things in your site do you have that, like, you can make sure a build happens at, make a hook so you're just building every night at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
so if your build takes longer than 10 minutes, nobody's like waiting on it, and you still have the one live because it just everything is down and wiped out, and then the new one goes up. And that's why you have instant cache and validation as well, so that you don't have to be like, did you refresh it? Has that been refreshed? Is that the new stuff?
Mm.
Just something I used to always do.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's why things like IoT can't be done on the Jamstack either,
Ah.
because you have so many data points,
Right. You're trying to
and so
read
it's
analog data or digital data from a device, and so you don't want something like that happening.
yeah. Um, and just so we touch on it, I kind of want to talk about edge handlers because it's the answer to you can't have hydration on the Jamstack.
Ah. Okay.
Um,
Wait. Before we move to that, what is happening here? So this site basically rebuilds the every time a minute changes or something.
yeah, so
Let me look at the
I've
source
never
here.
really delved into the code, but I would love to look into
Whoa.
the
What
code.
is
NJK.
NJK? I've never heard of this before. It looks like a templating language of some
Uh,
kind.
Talking about 11D, it seems, because he's talking about Zach. Zach has, oh man, one thing I really love about people's kids having to stay home during quarantine, like Zach's kids are always on group calls. It's the best.
Oh, really?
His kids are amazing.
So builds a page with the local time for a variety of time zones. I'm just trying to understand what this does so that I understand why you shouldn't do it. So,
Because the big why you shouldn't do it is because it's rebuilding the whole site every minute.
every time, so
Every single minute,
it's
it
going and
rebuilds the site.
fetching. It's going and fetching. Why is it having to rebuild by going and getting that data? That's what I guess what I'm confused
Because
about.
it's new. So when it's a new minute, so it's just because it's saying like, oh, the time every minute it goes and gets the time because now it's 1:31, and then it's 1:32.
Mm-hmm.
So just to update the clock for the new minute, it has to get that information and rebuild each minute. So it was like his way of showing like, look, this can be done.
So it's not going. It's not getting the time dynamically. It's getting it as like a server build, like in the build. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
So see how it says now dot set time, now dot get time plus 30,000. So every 30 seconds, the build takes about 30 seconds. So that adds a little
I
buffer
see.
to set the time from.
I
So
see.
yes.
I see. So it's not.
Is
It's
that how
not.
he's doing it? What's under, wait, data was where the time has changed?
Let's see. Timezones.json. Because I was just thinking, like, if you just were if you were doing this on the client side, it wouldn't matter, right? Like, cause it wouldn't
Yeah.
trigger a rebuild just because it was dynamically getting the time. So I just want to make sure I clarify that so that people don't think just having dynamic data is the problem.
Yeah, no. And
It's,
so he's basically showcasing that you can change data every minute by doing it in a very bad way. Like you could dynamically get information that
I see.
repopulates just that.
Add filter time. I see. Interesting. Okay. Okay, so lastly, edge handlers.
So
The future of Jamstack.
future of JAMstack. So edge handlers are basically, we have now a redirect process that lets you dynamically say, like route people a certain way. So like you can say like, I want, when they come to this page, I want to send them to this other page or whatnot. So now we have it where you can use edge handlers to deliver a function. But this also talks about the way edge handlers work in the example of the code on this page. It reads headers from the incoming like request from the user and is able to rewrite the content based on where the request is coming from.
Mm.
So if you look, so here, this is part of our, the COVID tracker data that we have from, the COVID tracker is this really awesome application that was built, like community built on Netlify. And there's a talk from JAMstack Conf. Let me get you the author because she's amazing.
James is asking, is Edge Handlers a competitor to Cloudflare
Cloudflare
Workers?
workers. It's the same, yeah, it's doing the same thing. So like both Cloudflare workers and edge handlers are uh, giving a little more power on those edge nodes. So CDNs, content delivery networks, have like this origin server, and then they duplicate the information across when people ask for your uh, site. Is
Mm.
basically taking usually, let's say, static rendered files and is putting them on the edge closest to the person requesting them. And then if somebody else requests it from over there, it's putting that content on that CDN closest to the person requesting it. And currently, most CDNs only have things like cache invalidation, redirect knowledge, so that if it goes to a CDN and for some reason the CDN messes up, or the CDN edge node messes up, it sends it to another edge node that's close enough. But it
Mm.
knows to do that. So it makes it really reliable. For enterprise level of Netlify Edge, it's also multi-cloud.
Oh.
So it's like not, so say if there's like an AWS one that doesn't work, it can go to a DigitalOcean one nearby.
Mm.
Um, so just so I get her name on here, so sorry, why isn't it in the description? That drives me nuts out. I'm gonna have to say something to our team about that. But Erin Kassane helped lead. She was the managing editor on this COVID tracking project that I highly recommend looking into because it's her talk in general is a whole. Here, I can send you the link. Is a whole um, story just in general about organizing teams and the Jamstack. Because that's one of the things, again, that's really nice about the Jamstack is if everything lives on Git, it's easy to pull down and grab it for yourself. Or
What?
like,
Autoplay just like blasted my ears. I don't think
I wondered why.
I don't have my Chrome sounds piped into the stream, so nobody else heard that. They just
I
all
thought you
got
were
to see
getting really
my.
excited about Git
I know,
workflow.
right?
Whoa! What do you mean I could pull a repo down? Um,
Oh yeah, no name in the description. That is, yeah, gotta get on
I'll
that.
talk to them about that.
Yeah,
That's
that's
just silly.
really cool. Okay,
So we took the information from the COVID tracker and we're able to, and you'll see this in David Calavera's talk that I think you have
yeah, I
the
think
link
we linked to that
for
too.
that.
Hold on. I'm gonna get my let's see, bring
Your
that
87
over.
tabs.
Yeah, I'll have to compile all of this into a a post or something. Oh gosh, there it goes again. Okay.
So
Okay, here's the Netlify Edge Handlers preview.
I think you could kind of go in the middle, just scrub to the middle to see the COVID project.
Let's see.
Or maybe towards the end, actually. It's an 8-minute talk.
Here we go. So we got.
Yeah.
Going in there.
So that's the code that you'll actually see in that article with the code sample.
Yeah.
Because they're basically saying, like, see where the request is coming from, look through the different list of state information, match the state with the state that's coming in the header from the request, and take that data, and that's what you're going to render on the page for that user. So when David rebuilds it and then goes to refresh it,
here we go.
there it is. He that's before the refresh. Come on, Sam.
There we go. Now he's in Sunnyvale.
Yeah.
So he wasn't. It was just showing New York, and now it's showing Sunnyvale, California.
Because that's his cool. Header was saying where he was coming from.
Yeah, so it's that's got a little tag down here that he added to say like serve from which edge node, and you can see it's very tiny, but there's an SFO right there. So exactly. That's the nearest edge that I see. That's cool.
Yeah, so that, I mean, I think that's just like in general really exciting for like not only having that dynamic information, but having it customized to your users without having those complications of the server. So yeah, definitely check out Cloudflare Workers, like James was talking about. They're doing this as well. We're doing our flavor of it, but it isn't out yet. But you can sign up to check out the beta. And again, this is like the process we did with the build plugins, like how like, you know, a lot of people have build plugins for the application. So we wanted to make sure we had something that was really great for DX and accessible to all levels of technical competency. So we have the one-click installs so that, you know, there's not a lot of engineering hours to go around on many teams. So say like we have an ally checker, I always say ally, accessibility checker, that it's like one click and it will show you, it will say like, oh, you have these flaws in your accessibility. So it just kind of takes your workload down to one click with how you do build plugins. So we're doing our iteration now with beta. You could sign up, and this is where, so this is basically where we start to really dig in and make sure we have DX perfected, perfected. But you know, just basically, this is such a big thing. Like this brings so much to the JAMstack. I mean, not just the edge handlers, but any edge node work that you're doing with CDNs.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we're doing it right and we're delivering it to you right. So that's where we are now with that process.
So are the two main benefits to this being able to customize based on geographic data, and then also serving content faster based on geographic data? Are there other benefits that I'm missing?
Well, just the fact that you can run functions from the edge node. So it doesn't even have to be geographic. It could be, you know, time-based, that you have a function that's running at a certain time and it's coming from the edge node instead of rebuilding from. So it's like a function that can live on the edge. Living on the edge.
Can you think of an example?
I should be able to. Well, I mean, so say you could also like have a build where time wise and time zones, so say like at like 9 a.m. at some place, the code has to be changed to a certain thing. So say you have a sale that's going on at, you know, Cyber Monday at this time. When they request it, if their request is coming from this time zone at this time, it would change the content on your page.
Oh.
But again, so it's like it's you don't have to push code at a certain time. You just tell your script to make that happen at this time when the header from this place says that at this time.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
But I'm trying to think of like non-geo ones. But again, like a funny thing with build plugins is when we first started with build plugins, it was like, oh well, I don't know what all can we do with build plugins, and all of us hit walls at some point, and then the our support team was like, oh yeah, we wanted this to be able to check that these words were misspelled. Oh yeah, we could do that with build plugins.
Yeah.
Or yeah, it's like we wanted to make sure that nothing changed visually, and oh, we could do that. So now like you can make your own build plugins, just like you could be able to make your own edge handlers. So there's like every custom thing that you can think of. You just both of
Yeah.
those are just JavaScript functions.
Oh, it looks like in this article there's something about user permissions. That would be an interesting thing to explore.
Oh, yeah, because again, it's just a function, right? So if the handler doesn't have the right, a handler, if the header coming in doesn't have the right permission key attached or something,
Yeah.
I don't.
Or
I'm
yeah,
just
I wonder
dipping
if
my
that
toe into
can
this stuff.
hmm that'd be interesting to
The
explore.
beard
Yeah.
stroking's happening.
It'd be interesting to explore if you could yeah, what you could do with that. I'll have to
I,
do a little digging on that.
but yeah, I think this is like one of those things where um, you feel the capabilities of the Jamstack
Yeah.
uh, just broadening. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
so, but yeah,
Cool.
I think we are coming on time. So if there's anything else
I think that's all I
that
had.
we should touch
Anybody in
on,
the chat have any other questions for Tara about Netlify or Jamstack or dogs or how to make funny videos or
do you know
anything
who
else?
Tierra Whack is?
Uh-uh.
Tierra Whack, TIERRAWHACK. She's an amazing artist, musical artist, but she has this song called Unemployed, and she has this video for it. And for some reason, that just popped in my head, which is like a bunch of talking potatoes and stuff. Anyway,
That's awesome. Cool.
um, but yeah, I think the biggest thing that we have to remember with the Jamstack uh, is the fact that the whole goal is accessibility for those who make it and those who use it. And all these things are just trying to get us back to serving things fast to users and making sure that, like with headless CMSs and one-click installs for build plugs and stuff like that, we're just trying to lower the level of technical knowledge you have to have in order to make things that are great for users.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's awesome.
I'm
Awesome.
excited.
Yeah. It's very exciting stuff. Well,
I
cool.
also like how it's like more and more people that I've met through the Angular community are coming over to like the Jamstack side of development.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely trending upwards to it's starting to really take over the front end space.
So I've always really loved the Git workflow, and one of the things about the Jamstack is it tries to highlight developer experience in the way of like just make sure everything's available on GitHub. Have what is it? Uh, you're able to roll back to a certain build, so that you have immutable builds. So when you mess something up, you're just like roll back.
Yeah.
So things like that make it so you're not completely, you can get to your projects faster, you can iterate faster. Like what we do, like we totally dog food it at Netlify. So like our whole system for, you push a PR, you have to set reviewers, you have to like pass all these things that GitHub has in order to like be able to merge a PR. And
Yeah.
then we have the deploy previews. So being able to like see everything, push it up, pass tests, automate all that process makes us iterate so much faster. Like I can go change something on almost every part of our product
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
not
totally.
worry.
Awesome. Well,
That's all.
cool. Well, thanks for hanging out as
Thanks for
always.
having me, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Hope you have an awesome rest of your day. And yeah, we'll see you next time. I'm trying to remember what the next. Hold on.
The next time that Sam is on here.
Yeah. And we've got some things coming up. On the 18th, we'll have, I think, an episode of
Avocado
Avocado
Labs.
Labs. And then July 7th, Ryan Chenke is going to be on to talk about React security.
Who
So,
just moved over to Prisma.
Prisma. So we'll be
Yeah.
here. Well, I'm sure we'll be doing a lot more with Ryan. He's another ngconf pal.
Yep,
Um,
same.
and so yeah, with Prisma doing stuff with Redwood, it's all coming full circle. So yeah, yeah,
That's hilarious.
cool.
Awesome.
All right, well, thanks everybody. Have an awesome rest of your day, and we'll see you
And
next time.
awesome. And awesome.
Awesome rest of your day. Yeah. All right. Bye.